I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 78. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hi, guys. Welcome to this week's episode. I have a special treat for you, and her name is Elise Buie. She has been such an inspiration to me since I met her, which was almost a year and a half ago, I guess, maybe a little bit less than that. And I really enjoy conversations with her. I enjoy watching her success. She had tremendous success before I met her. Since then, I mean, man, her firm has just continued to explode. If you don't know who she is, you should. I'm going to read you her formal bio because I really want to do her justice. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to say a little bit more. Elise Buie is a passionate, creative, problem-solving family attorney who creates solutions, not obstacles. After evacuating her hometown of New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina and surviving a divorce, Elise landed in Seattle and founded her law firm. Elise's practice involves all aspects of family law, guided by a collaborative philosophy and her deep understanding of complex parenting issues. Elise opened her firm during a period of personal adversity. Now, in a period of global adversity, Elise's firm has experienced its most significant growth yet, which she attributes to primarily her driving force and her mantra, I can do it. So that's Elise in a nutshell. And I guess, I'll let you get to know her through the interview if you don't know her yet. But what I enjoy the most about Elise is how open and vulnerable she is. She is always willing to be wrong. She has always been willing to be shown a way, a better way. She just doesn't have that bone in her body where she allows her ego to flare up and say, no, like I've got this, or no, I want to keep doing it this way without hearing out a different way. She's very open. The other thing I appreciate, which I've recently have words to put to, is that she is wildly successful and she's not in a hurry for that. She never has been in a hurry to hit a rung on the ladder, but she is the kind of person, as nearly every listener of this podcast is, she's the kind of person that's always going to have this next rung that she's reaching for. She's always very clear about what it is that she's going after, but not because she needs to hit it. That's not the thing. It's because she's the kind of person that she wants to see what's possible. She wants to see what she can create in this world, what kind of impact she can have, and do so in a meaningful way. And that is the driver behind her. Her attitude that she brings really helps her grow fast and achieve those rungs on the ladder very quickly because of some of what you'll hear us talk about today. So it's so fun to talk to her and just have banter around like what's working, what's not working, what's been running through your head lately, all those things. So I really hope you enjoy today's episode. So without further ado, here, my friends, is a warm and wonderful conversation with Elise Buie. Okay, welcome Elise Buie to my podcast.
I'm so excited, Melissa, to be here.
Thanks for making time to come on. You are a very busy woman, but I do know that you make time for things you want to do. So I appreciate being on that list. So
it makes me so happy to talk to you. I always love talking to you.
Me too. The podcast, you were so kind to have me on your podcast. That came out just the day before we're recording this. Right. And what a joy your podcast is. I think it's for a breath of fresh air. So maybe if you don't mind, I'd like to, because I think this will feed into some of the main topics that we'll talk about. I'd love to talk about your podcast for a second. You have a podcast called Maximum Mom, which is through Maximum lawyer media, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. And you've been running with this for a couple months now. And the guests that you have on, I love listening to the conversations because it feels like real talk about entrepreneurship, mostly lawyers and moms. So the trifecta, so to speak, is what
Yeah.
you call it. So what's it been like for you? How's the experience? And yeah, I'd just love to know because you're a couple months in now.
I love the podcast so much. I mean, I find this group of people, moms, lawyers, and it's not always lawyers, but, mostly lawyers and entrepreneurs. These are some badass women. I have to
Mhm.
tell you,
Yeah.
like, I marvel at these people and what they're able to accomplish. And I also marvel at how humble they all are.
Mm.
How they don't even notice the wild things they're doing. And I I come away from every podcast just fairly inspired by
Mm.
what I've heard and what I've learned, and just watching these women come into their own in all these different areas. I mean, I think they both feed on each other and really help each other in many ways, the three areas. But I mean, these are three full-time gigs on their own.
Yeah.
Like any one of them, I mean, you can absolutely keep yourself 100% occupied full time on
Yeah.
any one of them. And these people manage to juggle the three of them and do it well
Mhm.
and do it messy, though, too. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where, I mean, so I don't mean to make it sound like everybody, and gosh, no, I am not included in this because I am a hot mess of craziness. Like, things sometimes happen and they're messy and you're
Yeah.
having to figure things out. And,
Yes.
I always talk about I'm building the plane as we're flying. And every so often I'll say something to my team. I'm like, shove some cotton in the Swiss cheese because things are going awry.
That's hilarious.
I mean, I feel like like sometimes there's real holes,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, oh, who knew that was such a large hole? you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think I love actually that you said messy because I genuinely don't think there's another way to do. I don't think you can build what you really want to build. It's not clean.
Oh,
There's no like, well, this step, then this step, then this step. No, that is not how
it's
amazing things are built.
it is
And
not how. I mean, I have to tell you, I have had this entirely like immersed experience in Elon Musk. I have a son who is obsessed with space, rocket engineering, and the
yeah,
whole thing. I mean, literally daily, I discuss Elon Musk, what he's doing, what's happening with SpaceX or Falcon 9, or what happened last year, or what he's doing on the ocean floor. I mean, like, I know more than I care to admit. But the
right.
one thing I've learned about Elon Musk, it's messy. He
Yeah,
blows up billion-dollar rockets on purpose
right.
to
Right.
make advancements. I
Yeah.
mean, he literally blows up rockets to make things better. And I'm like, dude, if he can blow up rockets, I can stuff my Swiss cheese with cotton. We're good.
Yes. Yes. And I think some people don't want to do like they have such an aversion to stuffing the Swiss cheese with cotton because they feel afraid that they're going to build a house of cards. And that is, I mean, you could, but just because you have to do that sometimes, you put the cotton in the Swiss cheese, that does not mean you're building a house of cards. It means
No,
you're building something.
you're
And
built.
along the way, you can make really strategic decisions about, okay, how are we going to move in a direction that
Yeah.
feels a little tighter? We needed cotton for a minute. Now we don't. So what are we
Now
going to
we
do?
can take
Yeah.
out that cotton and we can put on a wood face, to
Yeah.
cover that hole.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny because like this year, my whole word of the year is renovation. And so it's been this funny thing as I'm renovating my office. Like we're putting in this whole management team. I mean, historically it's been me and the whole team. And, we've been like a real flat organization in the sense of we're all just rolling up our sleeves, doing everything we need to do. And now we're in a position where I need more help, more leadership help, because I truly am like
Mhm.
getting in over my head
Yeah.
about and in over my ability. Like, let's be
Yeah.
serious. I mean, how much do I actually know about marketing? I mean,
Right.
I've got my little ideas, but I mean,
Right.
that wasn't what I, went to school for. I mean, and I can read, book after book after book, but I mean, getting somebody who is a professional marketer has been really helpful, to
Yeah.
understand how we can turn an entire division of the firm, or how do we really pull a lever and see,
Yeah.
the numbers change, and
Yes.
what KPIs should we be measuring in that
Yes.
department. And so
Yeah.
that's been a big change for us as we are putting in leaders. And and so now I'm faced with the more obvious holes in that I'm having to teach other people what I've been doing. And so those things that I've been just stuffing with cotton all along, I have to admit, and I have to like be
Yeah.
really vulnerable and tell them like, oh, I've been stuffing cotton in that problem for a
Right.
few years now. Like, so
Yeah.
I'd love for you to get in there, roll up your sleeves and get some wood on that hole, get
Yeah.
that fixed.
I think there's something really valuable there because some law firm owners don't, well, this business owners just in general don't have or won't stop for a moment to soften enough to admit when something could be done better than the way they're doing it, or to be like, if it's almost like I think that vulnerability as you level up is absolutely key. If you don't have it, you're going to keep hiding things that
Completely.
need to be brought to light. And so I'd love that you just said that.
Well, it has been life changing, I have to tell you. I mean, sitting in leadership meetings now with other people, and when, people ask me a question, like as the visionary, they're like, Elise, well, what do you think? And I tell them what I think, and I'm like, but I have no idea how to make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I would love to see. Like, this is what lives in my little dream brain of what I would love to see. And watching these people who are smarter than me, more talented than me,
Yes.
know things better than me in different areas, figure it out. I stand in awe of them. I
Mm,
am like, oh my gosh, look at y'all go.
yeah.
And they do things and they come at me with ideas, and they'll be like, I don't know why you've been doing it that way. I'm like, me either. Like,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just how my little brain saw it initially. And sometimes it's as simple as that, where that is how I started doing it. And I've just kept doing it that way because,
Right.
I've been busy doing a million other things, good,
Right.
bad, and ugly, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's been so helpful to have other eyes on and other input. And for me, being open to all that feedback. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
really accepting that. I mean, we operate, one of the things in our firm is radical candor. I mean, caring personally and challenging directly. And I mean, and I want that as much as anyone. I mean, I very much encourage it. And I'm like, I never want to be like, oh, well, this is how we do it. And of course, this is the perfect way because I set it up. I mean, come on, give me a break. Like, what,
Mhm.
and so I want them to be like, okay, Elise, this is not great. Like, let's
Yeah.
fix this. And they're all super nice and kind about it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they get that I've been working super hard alongside them, like for years.
Yeah.
And they're all like, yeah, let's fix this, let's make it better. And they'll bring in things they've seen from other firms, or they'll bring in new ideas that I have never considered. And
Yeah.
what a gift that is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you, well, and just, I know you a bit. We've had conversations in the past. You innately, I think, maybe tell me if I'm wrong about that, try to figure out how to make sure you are not the blocker of anything. Of
Uh,
anything. Even and so there's times where you are, but it's not it's like you don't, it's maybe not the right moment to address it, but you're always looking for how you might be the blocker. And I don't think that's not a common trait. I think that lends itself to success.
Interesting. I had never thought about that because I think of my blockages. obviously is one of my biggest problems when I'm finding myself as the blockage. And I'll say that word. It's funny you bring it up. I actually was
Oh.
in a team meeting yesterday and I said, I think I'm the block on this entire estate planning thing. I said, so pull me out. I
Mm.
said, get me out of that, like you
But that's
all
what I mean.
run with
That
it.
ability to say, like, which maybe I can help reframe what happens in your head about it. It's you are always looking for how to remove yourself as the blocker. And so when you identify that you are, even that, which is probably the most drastic that it looks like, is get me out. Like I am the blocker. Where other times it may be more subtle, where it's like, okay, I want to transfer this. I'm a blocker to my own success here, to the success of the firm. And here's a process we're going to do.
Right.
So, I mean, it could be subtle, it could be major, like the one you just mentioned. But I think I don't see that's not common, I don't think. Among the business owners I've worked with, it's coaxing them to get out of the way and to do that in a way that doesn't crush their ego. Like that's part of the process is to help them want to always remove themselves as the blocker. And you just seem to do that naturally.
It's so funny though. I mean, in a way, it's like it is my mean girl voice. I mean, I am so comfortable being the dumb blonde on things. Like, and I know that sounds bad, but there are times that I'm like, this is not my strong suit. This is not my skill set. I'm not in my zone of genius. Like when somebody needs some technological efficiency, I mean, put me in another room and close the door. Don't let me get involved. And when it's all done and there's an SOP written, give it to me and make me follow it. Don't let me stray, but don't get me in the process of creating it because I will muddle it up. I'll bring all my, emotional stuff and I'll think, oh, well, this probably didn't sound right. And maybe this could be interpreted this way.
Right.
So it's like, just get me out of it because I am not going to be helpful.
Right.
And I really think, I mean, it's so interesting. We're having this conversation because yesterday we were having a conversation with a team member who was feeling not valued, like feeling like when she would give input on things that, it wasn't being valued, or if her input was given, it was being used, but then not credited. And so we were having a whole conversation of how can we actually give credit to everything somebody does? I mean, that's virtually impossible, and so we were talking about how sometimes, as just part of a team, you do have input and you do have insight and you do something that's great. And it is just going to be used. It's going to be put in an SOP or put in a manual or, an email is going to go out. That's going to be copied exactly like you wrote it. And it's like you have to have enough self-confidence and self-esteem that you don't need,
validation
for everything like that you do. Now, obviously, I don't mean we shouldn't look for opportunities to give kudos and to, really support our team members. I do think that's a fine line we walk, but I want to develop team members who have strong self-confidence, strong sense of self, where they don't need that. When they get it, they're super appreciative and it means something to them, but they're not looking for it and their work isn't impacted by it,
Yes. I 100% agree. Definitely. It's almost like there's this concept called emotional adulthood which can sound really condescending, but it's not. We all are adults walking around with different capacities, emotional capacities and competencies. And so the goal, like something I think a lot about for myself is that the goal isn't this is what we talked about in your podcast. I'm responsible for my own feelings. Yep. Someone else can't make me feel a certain way for the good or for the bad. It's my thoughts about that thing. And so that it's similar. It's almost like you're helping to teach people that, even if you don't use that language, how they don't want to rely on external validation for how they're feeling. It needs to come from within, which is what you're talking about with self-confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's important.
So important. Well, it's funny. I mean, I thought of you last night. I was sitting down with my son, Ethan, and he was talking about, being kind of, just really not motivated right now academically. He's in his senior year. He's been doing Zoom school now since last March. It's just kind of tedious. And so really talking to him about his feelings of motivation. And I was explaining the whole thought model of how, his thoughts are really impacting his feelings, and, how he kind of has to flip that and really look at it differently. And he made some comment. He's like, do you actually do this? Is this how you stay really pretty upbeat all the time? And I said, well, I definitely work at it. I really do think about managing my thoughts and eavesdrop on my thoughts.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, I think you're weirder than I thought before, but he's like, maybe that actually works out for you.
You know what? Some of the kookiest people on this planet have been the most brilliant. So there's that. Albert Einstein. Not that I'm trying to put you in a whatever. I should just stop.
Oh gosh, I was laughing so hard though. I'm thinking, when you share these things with your 18-year-old son, they do look at you a little cross-eyed. But I'm like, you should give it some thought.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to hurt to try.
Right. Absolutely. Even just having an awareness, even if you don't try to fix anything, just knowing, oh, I am creating this for
exactly.
myself. Yeah, that's really powerful.
I think so.
Okay, okay, there's two things that I really wanted to dig in with you. Actually, three if we have time. But you have talked about previously, and I've gotten to talk to you a little bit behind the scenes about the things that you attribute your success with overcoming or growing your firm through really difficult things. You lived, I think, in New Orleans at the time of Hurricane Katrina.
I did.
And you went through a divorce, and now we're in the pandemic. You at the moment, and since I've known you, have a thriving practice, a growing, thriving practice. So I don't know if you want to share for people who feel like they're dealing with something pretty difficult, like life stuff that's not necessarily directly related to the firm, but they do own a law firm and they've got to figure this out. So do you have any thoughts, or what would you share, because you've been through so many difficult things and grown your firm?
I mean, for me, it is a very kind of systematized thing I do. I mean, that now, once the pandemic hit, I really got to watch myself kind of, in action. And what I do is, when all hell breaks loose, I wrap my head around the very worst case scenario. I literally go all in on the worst case scenario. I figure it out. I mean, whatever that is. And I mean, I get down and dirty, granular into it. So like in the pandemic, the pandemic is a perfect example. Like, there we were, my husband and I had just built a new house that we weren't planning on moving into for a year. The pandemic hit, and I was like, whoa, what's going to happen? Like, what if I get no more money into my firm? Like, how am I going to survive? What, who on my team really needs a job? Like, it puts food on their table, versus maybe I have somebody on my team whose husband is working at Amazon. So maybe, they would be able to put food on their table if she didn't work. But really figuring out who was just essential that I needed to make sure I could keep. And that it was very much a moral decision to me about, I looked at my staff from that level first. Then I looked at, okay, from a productivity standpoint, where do we go? But that being said, my husband bought me all these whiteboards, and I spent a solid week calculating. I mean, doing like down and dirty budget calculations on what is going to happen. And I did 41 of these whiteboards, where I looked at the whole rest of 2020. So from, in Seattle, we learned about this on February 29th. So we got the pandemic starting on March 1st. So I, forecasted it out the year 41 different times, 41 different ways. I mean, I immediately cut all of our personal expenses. I mean, down to the barest bone I could come up with, canceled everything I could think of, sat Ethan down, who was at a private school in Seattle, and said, dude, you're not going there anymore. Like, if I have to fire my receptionist, who's a single mom with 2 kids, that's not happening so that you can go to private school. I'm like, you can go to public school, you'll be fine, and that is her whole salary. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
so we literally made all these decisions and choices. And once I got through the end of it, I was like, okay, I mean, I got this. Like, we can figure this out. We will not take a dime out of the business. I just figured out the very worst case scenario, and I could make us get through the end of 2020 literally on like no other dollars kind of coming in. I mean, it was literally like, how can I survive? And so once I did that, then I was able to completely box that away. The worst case scenario, I had figured it out. I took a picture of the board that I felt was the budget that we would follow under the worst case scenario. So there it was in my phone if I needed to go back to it. And then I said, all right, F all that. Now I'm going to figure out how to thrive. So then I erased all my boards and I started again. And then I really figured out, okay, what if we just take in a modest amount of money every month? Like, what can we do? And what can I do to make this better? And for me, one of the first things was, one, I needed to reach out to my team and let them all know that they're going to be fine, that I figured it out, and that they are all going to be fine. And they all can just let the worry of, I'm going to lose my job or whatever, just let go of that. That is not happening. I got them. I got it figured out, and they can trust me. Mm-hmm. So I did that. I sat them all down. I had written them this really long kind of emotional letter, just like letting them know what I had done, what my thinking was, because I didn't want them to think I was crazy, and
yeah.
And I just told them all, I got you. Like, we've got this. Here's all these budgetary things I've done. I've made all these personal changes. We're going to be fine. Like, no worries. So then I said, what can I personally do to really make the most difference in this situation? And at the time, my thought was, I am going to do every consult in this office. And if that means I'm doing, 12 consults a day, whatever, that's what it means. And if I'm doing billable work at night or on the weekends, whatever, that's what I'm doing. So I literally, every single consult that came to our office, for like 6 months, I did. And it was a combination of, obviously, I can sell my business and the passion I have for what we do, I think really well. Not necessarily best, but I knew that I could focus on it and it would be important. But the other thing for me was, here is all kinds of people suffering. People are trying to go through a divorce during a pandemic. Like, let's talk about a difficult thing to do. Yeah. People are losing jobs left and right, all kinds of things. So this was my way of being able to provide like access to justice to people. Like, I couldn't be throwing money at problems, because I was literally trying to conserve money and throw it at my team, but I was like, here's something I could do for my community. I can just give free consults just all the time. Like, I can talk to people. And so that is what I did. And I think that it turned into so much business. Like, we started getting clients and more clients, and then we'd get referrals from random consults who didn't hire us, like maybe they weren't going to get a divorce, but their next door neighbor was. And so then they would call and and then it grew and grew. And then I started hiring during the pandemic, and I was like, okay, this feels a little crazy to be doing all this. And in the end, I've hired 19 people since the beginning of the pandemic. And
holy hell.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah. It's been a whole lot. We quadrupled our revenue, like our January income versus our December income at the end of the year. It was quadrupled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's me. Okay. I actually love how you talked about that, the nitty gritty, because um, I don't know if you've experienced it before or if again it's just something you innately do, but I do think the natural human response when there's a freak out is like that you end up just staying in the freak out and grasping for things and trying to do your best, but really there's no planning. And I think you just took a breath, got down and dirty with all the different worst case scenarios because there's a bunch of different ways that could look. So you went deep on that and got right with it. And then anything above that was going to feel like a light.
It's lanyap. It's all lanyap. Anything above my worst case scenario on board 41 was me winning.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's so wise. And then it seems like after so you got worst case scenario, then took a picture of that, erased everything, and then think, okay, now if it's not worst case scenario, what might things look like? Letting your team know that, just reassuring the people around you that are closest to you, and then asking yourself, what can I do to have the biggest impact, be as most helpful as possible to the firm, and doing it like actually, hours a day doing consults for 6 months.
I mean, I worked literally 70, 80-hour weeks. I mean, I was working and working and working, but I felt like it was very impactful, and I felt like it was critical in the time of because I don't have little children at home. I have a senior, but he can Zoom school or not, but it's not like with itty bitties at home. So, I have team members who have little bitty children and they're trying to, Zoom school and do this. And people are dealing with, mothers in nursing homes. I don't have any of that. And so I knew that that I needed to step in and shoulder more of the burden because of my situation. Yes. I had more space in my world than many of my team members. And, and I think that a lot of that is I don't know what you'd call it in leadership, but really trying to lead by example as far as, we do need to come together at many different times and things are happening. And we had a situation in the pandemic in late July where my attorney who'd been with me the longest, who's, probably my most solid biller, she ended up, really breaking her hip on a horseback riding accident. So she was out for months. And it was really beautiful to watch our team step up and literally just take over her cases, take over everything without one iota of complaint or anything. And I think, that part of being a team and creating that kind of culture, for me at least, is very important, especially because we do have an all-women firm. And we really focus on women who are coming back into the workforce after having children. So a lot of our team members do have children. And things happen. You can just have the best plans in place. And then all of a sudden, your child is now in the hospital having surgery for something. And, people need to step up. And so I think, that was very important to me, that I was able to kind of roll my sleeves up next to everybody and be very comfortable taking a big part of the load, and happily so, because I didn't want them to be freaking out about all these added things they were dealing with. They needed to take a moment, be able to figure out, how do we get homeschooling working? How do we, get various things in place? And I wasn't having to do that. And so,
well, I was going to go somewhere else, but this is like a perfect segue into talking about the team. I really do. That was the third thing I wanted to talk to you about. So let's just go there. I have noticed, I guess I met you a year and a half ago-ish, maybe a little bit less than that. And from the get-go, I've noticed that you have a meaningful approach to your team that fosters trust and growth and good attitudes. And I'm sure that, part of the business is you're going to have some that aren't that, and they probably don't get to stick around. But you have a different approach. And I know not everything is perfect. Like nothing can be perfect behind the scenes.
No.
But I get to see and talk to a lot of law firm owners that have team members and how they think about their team and how they treat their team, even if they treat them fine. Like they're not mistreating them, but they aren't taking them into consideration the same way that you do. And I would love to know if you can sum up how you think about your team and why you think your team is so loyal to you. Yeah, I'll just stop there.
I think that, I mean, for me, my team is everything. Let's be serious. I mean, my team is the engine of the firm. I mean, they are the grinders. They are the ones who are creating all of the revenue that supports everything.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, one, just realizing that and being grateful for the work they do, for what they create, I think has real meaning, just appreciating them on a very, I mean, basic level for what they are creating for all of us. I mean,
Yeah.
that. And then secondarily, I think, I mean, one of the things that just is kind of who I am, I was a big believer in like the strength finders and, really understanding like those types of things. I mean, our team is all on a grid, so I can kind of see where everybody's strengths are. And one of the things for me that is so important is maximizing people around me. Is, really trying to like and see the potential in people around me. And so, I mean, and I would like to think I did that with my children, that was something that I really excelled at with my children. And it's something that I love with my team. When I see somebody on my team and I see this real, gem in them, like, they've got this potential and it might be rough, it might have jagged edges initially, but I mean, I am always the first to be like, tell them first. I always tell them like, I see this in you as a real potential. And sometimes it might mean I'm going to help them reach some goal and they might leave, because maybe they're not in the right seat or they're not really fulfilling their highest, best self. But that's okay with me. Like in my mind, helping somebody reach their best self, I don't think you can find a higher calling. Like I love that. And so, I mean, I have team members where they want to go back to school. I'm always pay for their school. I'm like, what can I do to help you go back to school? And I mean, the silliest thing when a while ago, years ago, I used to delegate to Sandra Pursuit Concierge all the time, all kinds of things. And it dawned on me at the time, my executive assistant was just frazzled. And I was like, this is absurd. Why do I delegate to this person and she does not delegate to this person? Like Sandra would help her so much. So then I called Sandra and I said, can we create this as a benefit for my whole office where people could use your delegation services? And so we just created it. I didn't put any fiscal limit on it and I still haven't. So, I mean, it's been in place now for like, I don't know, 5 years. And you can call Sandra, anybody in my office. You can be a contractor, you can be an employee, you can delegate to Sandra. I mean, I have an attorney now. Sandra's helping her plan a wedding. I mean, I've had an attorney investigate daycares all around. Sandra did all that. Sandra's picks up people's cars and gets them to a shop, has groceries delivered. I mean, just whatever,
Wait, what is this service?
It's called Pursuit Concierge.
All right. Good to know.
Sandra is amazing. So everyone can use that. And I think one of the things that has helped us with, one, if somebody is super stressed, I get to always ask them, have you looked to Sandra for help? So it's a way that I can keep my team where they're off the ceiling, they're not raising their white flag at me because I'm providing them all a way to move things off their plates.
It's like support for them.
It is real support, but it's also an education on how to delegate, which to me is like, I think delegation is the key to all success.
Yeah.
And so teaching my, contractor admin person how to delegate is beneficial. Do you know, where everyone is thinking like, who could do this just as good as I can do it, but who might be lower paid? It might be more efficient for them to do it. Thus, it's going to benefit the firm profitability wise, so teaching everybody to get that work off their plate that is not in their zone of genius. I'm like, if you hate it, you obviously, if you hate it, you're not going to be great at it. I mean, get it off your plate, figure it out how to move it somewhere else.
Yes.
And so that has been a huge part of our team, I think, is doing that. And then the other thing I think is the radical candor, having this just core value around caring personally and challenging directly, and being able to have conversations with people that sometimes are kind of yucky, where you have to talk about things and talk about problems, but do it in a way that is caring personally. And I think that the fact that I do actually care about my team members matters. I mean, and like, I think in the pandemic, I mean, one of my biggest concerns was I have this single mom with 2 children. And I was like, no way am I not going to be able to keep her. Do you know, to the point of, child, you're not going to private school anymore. I mean, it's worked out where my child maintained his ability to go to private school and everything. But I mean, we were completely prepared to switch.
Yeah. I love radical candor. I haven't heard that.
Oh,
ever,
it's a great book.
That.
It is a great book. Gosh, if I could think of the name of the author, that would be helpful.
But we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, it is a wonderful book. And I
don't think I realized it was a book. I thought it was just like one of the values you picked, which sounds like you did. But
it is from this book. And I think her name might be Kim Scott. I could have just made that up, but I think it is such an amazing way to lead. I think it's an amazing way to be. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. The firm I used to work at, the CEO would always talk about high confront and how important high confront is. And I really took that value away from it. Although, to your point, the personally caring, is that how you start that out?
Caring personally,
that matters, because high confront and you don't really care doesn't create the results you're really looking for. It's just going to create tension and frustration.
Exactly. And it's aggressive. It's aggressive, it is. Feeling.
But it's so, I do value, I've been thinking about how to do a podcast on confront, because people shy away from it naturally because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or you don't want them to think that you're a jerk, or whatever it is. Right. But, it just cuts to the truth of any situation.
You will love, you absolutely should read Radical Candor before you do your high confront, because I'm telling you, it's going to revolutionize how you think of high confront.
Yeah.
And it makes all the difference. To combine caring personally with challenging directly, and encouraging that across all relationships in all directions, because a lot of organizations, I think, have kind of this hierarchical thing where, the boss might feel like they can care personally and challenge directly, but God forbid anybody were to do that to them.
Right.
And I am completely open to people caring personally and challenging directly to me. Like, nobody is ever going to get a side eye from me about that.
But that goes back to, you can tell me if you think this is wrong, but that goes back to, that is because you always are looking for how you can remove yourself as the blocker. And if there is a need for challenging directly, it's because there's an issue. It is a blocker. And so you want that. It's like, everybody listening, I think that it's valuable to ask ourselves how we can do a better job of making sure we remove ourselves as the blocker. And that means being vulnerable, because you inevitably are the blocker in many ways. And you have to be able
Absolutely.
to own that and be soft about that. And like, okay, it's the only way you're going to get help to
Right.
grow. And if you don't want, which that happens with certain clients I've worked with in the past too, where it's like they, just like what you said, they love the value of radical candor as you described it going down, but going up, they would not take it well. They just wouldn't have. And I'd seen some of that play out, but I just love how you're talking about it. I haven't talked about it in this way, and I think it's brilliant.
Well, I think it's so important to the health of your organization too, because the reality is the boots on the ground people are the one who see the problems. I mean, they're
Yes.
the ones who are addressing day-to-day
Yes.
problems over and over again with clients who might be upset or an attorney who
Right.
might. I mean, if I can't hear them explain to me the issues that they're seeing, I mean, I'm kind of a stinky leader because
Right.
then we're not solving the real problems.
Right.
I mean, the real
Exactly.
problems are the boots on the ground problems
That's
that
so
are
true.
impacting our customers.
That's so true. I talk about before, but you're saying it so well. One of the main reasons I knew I had to leave the company I used to work for was because I was boots on the ground. I was the one traveling to these offices. I was helping them implement their stuff. I was leading their retreats, and there were holes in the product. And when you try to convey that to HQ,
Right.
like good luck with that, right? Like it would take, even if they were like, oh, that's such good feedback, it would be 6 months to a year before anything was allowed to be shifted. And so just what you're saying is really important, because it is that they are the people that have insight that you don't have as the visionary. And
Exactly.
and you don't want it. You
Well,
don't want to,
no.
like, you should be grateful that they can bring you that insight.
And to me, though, I mean, not only you have to take it another step, not only do you want them to bring you the insight, you want to empower them to
Yes.
suggest solutions
Yes.
so that they then can own the solution. Because
Yes.
I mean, I often will say, like, somebody will come to me for a problem, and I'm like, wow, you are so right. And I'm like, I have no idea how to fix that. So
Right.
you need to fix that. I'm like,
Yes.
I am putting that on you to solve this. And if you need to bring in other people, bring in whoever you need to, like whatever you need to do, solve it. And I'm like, and
Yes.
tell me what is a reasonable time frame in which you're going to solve this. And then
Yes.
I'm going to put it on my calendar and I'm going to check with you the day after.
Yes.
And so then they get to run with it and they get to determine how important is it. I mean, is this something we need to solve like tomorrow?
Right.
You know, is it something we can solve in the next week? Is it a next month? Is it a next quarter? But all that, they are empowered to make those decisions.
Yes. I
And
love the idea of if you bring a problem, you got to bring 3 solutions or whatever. One, it doesn't
exactly,
matter what the rule is, but it's the mindset, the frame of mind. Yeah.
completely. Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting when we were implementing a lot of new technology this year, that was something in 2020, because, you know, a lot of things were happening, a lot of growth. So, I mean, we were having to institute, you know, more systems, more efficiencies around things. And I was getting a lot of pushback from people. You know, they were, oh, that's not the way we do it. Or, you know, I'm not interested in doing this. So then it occurred to me, I was like, okay, they need a loop here, like a feedback loop of, so we started a thing where we implement 1 or 2 changes every quarter. So the first month of the quarter is all about training. It's all about us training them on whatever it is we're trying to do. We're explaining why we're trying to do it, what it's going to solve, and we're training them in whatever way they need, whether it's Loom videos, whether it's one-on-one training, whatever, you know, we're meeting everyone's educational needs wherever they are, whether they're visual, auditory, kinesthetic, we're training. The second month of the quarter is implementation. Everyone with a good faith must implement the new thing, and they'll have support. Then they'll have to ask, you know, they can go back to their trainer, get support. So that's all happening. The third month of the quarter is feedback. That is when you can tell me this stinks or you don't want to do it. But
Yeah.
I do not want to hear that in the first 2 months.
Right.
Because I want you to get trained on it. Then I want you to try it.
Yeah.
And then if you have feedback, we'll absolutely take the feedback then, because maybe the thing sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't work and maybe it
So good.
isn't more efficient.
Yeah.
But then at that point, we can make a decision. We can analyze what the data is and, take a read from everybody.
Yes, I love that. That's so good. Also, it cuts out the drama because if they don't know, okay,
Oh,
month 3 is for when I can give feedback, they are just dragging
exactly.
their feet. If something isn't working right, they want to complain. It's like, why are we doing that? You just set the stage so that they understand exactly where they are in the process and
Right.
they can trust that there's going to be space to
Yep.
give their feedback. It's not yet. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly. And it doesn't allow all that, when you get like Debbie Downer who doesn't want to try new things. And I mean, I don't try to hire people like that. I'm very much try to hire people with a growth mindset, people who are kind of like, more intrigued by innovation and
Yeah,
but sometimes you'll have that team member who is just like, ugh, I don't want to do that. And I really don't want that to feed into everybody else's
right.
excitement
Right.
about like, look, we're doing this cool new thing, and again, I
Yes.
think of it like Elon Musk. Imagine if you're the engineer, dude, we can't blow up a spaceship. And I mean, he messes
Right.
up the whole thing. Like, we need to be super excited about blowing up spaceships because
Right.
that is how advancement happens.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so well said. Well, okay, I have another question if you have another few minutes.
Sure.
It's very fun to talk to you about this stuff, and I would love to know what you have to say. And one of the points we talked about discussing was that investing in yourself and your mindset transfers to the success of the business. I think I naturally draw that crowd that they wouldn't have it any other way. Like they're going to be focused on self development, but I would love to hear why this feels so important to you and how you've seen this play out where it went back to the mindset stuff, the like developing you as a human lent itself to the success of your firm.
Again, I mean, if I didn't do it, I would be the blockage. I mean,
Mm,
imagine if I'm not able to get beyond my own limitations and accept my own limitations, because I think accepting the stuff you suck at and just putting it in a little box and delegating it away is golden as far as, my ability to then run with what I am successful at and
mhm.
do well. I mean, I have a friend here in Seattle and her name is Jessica Butts, and she wrote a book called Don't Do Stuff You Suck At. And literally, like, that book was so important to me in,
Mm,
how people have that mindset of, oh, there's, 20% of things they're really good at, or, and 80% they're not. And they spend all this time and energy focused on the 80% they're not, trying to get it better. It's like,
yeah.
no, like,
Yeah.
jettison that.
That is yeah. That is
And
similar, by the way, to what people I observe tend to do with team members. That 80% they'll spend 80% of the time on those that drain things and they have these people they only give 20% of their time to and put it there. Like fuel there. It's similar what if
it,
you have a skill set
yep.
that is innately just how you roll and you're really good at it, put most of your focus there and develop it. What would you say is a couple of what comes to mind? I'm kind of putting you on the spot with this. So if nothing comes to mind, that's okay. But what would you say is a couple of things that have been mindset shifts that are realizations where it was like, it just unlocked something that from there you could sort of up level because you learned it?
I mean, one that I don't do everything the best,
Mm-hmm.
like that there's many, many things I do that other people do better. And
Mm-hmm.
so really embracing that and accepting it. And then also that perfect is almost like not the goal, that
Yeah.
um and obviously I know in some things perfect is more important than others. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are legal things we're doing that, we need to be excellent in what we're, producing from a legal standpoint. But I mean, as an example, yesterday in this leadership team meeting, we were talking about this process, and somebody was saying they felt like I didn't give enough feedback time to all these different people to give their input. And I said, sometimes as a leader, we have to make a decision and run with things, even if it's not perfect. And I know it's not perfect when I'm authorizing it to be implemented. But I know that the fastest way to get to the real boots on the ground problem is to implement. So let's implement, find the problems, then fix them, instead of staying in this do loop of feedback forever and trying to make it perfect, because I can assure you it's still not going to be perfect.
Right.
We're still going to have problems.
Yes.
And so there are many times, and I frustrate my team sometimes, because I'll say, that's good enough, roll it out.
Yeah.
And my point is let's move, let's make progress on that. Then we'll have problems, and we have a system to deal with those.
Yes.
And so not being scared of messy, I guess, is just like, sometimes you got to just make a decision and roll.
I do like that. I say, I talk about a lot with clients, progress, not perfection, but I love how you just said messy, because progress is typically messy. I think we want it to be tight, but that's not real progress. You are crawling. If you allow it to be messy and focus on progress instead of perfection, you fly towards results in a way that you weren't or couldn't.
I mean, when I think of hiring 19 people over the course of 6 months in a pandemic, I mean, to tell you that was messy is an understatement. Like, I didn't have an onboarding process, but girl, we have an onboarding process now that is like golden.
That's amazing.
I mean, you can get people on. I mean, and it's like, it is a machine, things are happening all around. I have like 15 people that do things to make onboarding happen. I don't even know what's going on anymore. I used to do it all. And now literally a new person shows up in our virtual world, and I have a Zoom meeting with this new person, and some of them I've met and some of them I haven't. And I'm like, oh, hi, you're my new intake person. Cool. And it's, I mean, pretty wild to see. But if I had, waited and let every system become perfect, I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do what we did, and we wouldn't have been able to meet the demand we had. And
right.
So
I there's something else that comes to mind when I see you now or think of you. Because a few weeks ago when we recorded the interview for your podcast, I came off of was not late for the recording, but I was a little later than I wanted to be to show up to you. I came off of a call with my coach, and I was a little raw, and I was like, well, this is the perfect podcast to be on if you're going to be raw, is Elise's, because it's about life and motherhood and not just work. Right. And what I learned with my coach that day, what I realized that day, is something that I hadn't realized for a while. And I would like to hear your perspective on this, because since then I have been talking to clients about it, making a point to bring it up, and they all are dealing with a version of this. And I'm just learning to talk about it. I'm learning how to focus on it in a healthy way. You have grown fast by every sentence, by all definitions of the word fast. I don't know. How long has your firm been in existence?
6 years.
Yeah. And I know that you've wildly exceeded your revenue goals.
Oh yeah.
More than once. And you've hired 19 people this year. You are a quick start also, which is, for those who are listening that aren't familiar, quick starts that's one of the 4 categories you get put in the Kolbe assessment. And it basically talks about how you take action, how you prefer it to receive information and to move forward. Elise is high quick start, which means fly by the seat of your pants. She would prefer not a ton of details. Like, let's go and figure it out. What you said, build the plane as you fly it. Is that what you said? Yeah, that's perfect. So that's Elise. And one thing I've noticed is that I've always told myself, like, I have revenue goals. I have, things in my life I have goals for. And in my head, I always know that it's not wise to be in a hurry to get there. It's not wise to, like, there is not better than here. And I
Right.
know that intellectually, but I just got it. Like, and every cell of my being, I just got it. Because I did hit some major goals this year and I'm here. So wherever it used to be there, now I'm here. And nothing really changes as you gain success. I know this, right, in my head. But it's hard for people to really not just know it in their head and really understand fully that this right here is not lacking anything. Like, I think fundamentally when we don't want to admit that there's this belief that it's going to be better there than here. Maybe it's a revenue goal, maybe it's a number on the scale, it doesn't matter. And that fundamentally means that you think here isn't good enough if there is better. And so I'm learning for the first time that I did kind of operate that way unconsciously. And now I'm here. Like, I've technically arrived where I said I wanted to arrive. And I'm not done. Of course, like, if you set more goals, that's inevitable. But also, you're still left with you. You're still left with your head. You're like, nothing changes because you hit these marks. So everyone listening to this has goals of some sort. And I'm curious your take on, as you have grown, because you don't strike me as someone, maybe you did when you were younger, I don't know, but you don't strike me as someone with this level of experience that you don't buy into that. You know it's not better there than here.
Definitely.
And yet you grow very fast. And what I'm learning is you tend to grow faster when you don't believe that there's better. When you stop being in a hurry, things tend to unfold more quickly.
Absolutely.
I would just love to hear your take on that, because I think there's a lot of people listening to this that, of course, they're striving for things, but their reason for striving for it, if they're being really honest, is because they think it's going to be better there than here. So they're hurrying to get there. And they're creating a pretty crappy experience because they're in a hurry for themselves, for their team, their work hours, the drive, like all of it. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think a part of that, to me, I look at as contentment. And I mean, I have always felt very strongly that I am content in whatever setting I'm in, because otherwise you literally are wishing your life away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're constantly moving towards a moving target. And in my mind, I always have goals. Absolutely. I have goals and I'm trying to achieve them. And every single time I meet a goal, I've got another one. I mean, so if I'm constantly thinking that's better, I will never just feel contentment in my day-to-day world.
Right.
Because I mean, that's just who I am. I'm always going to be reaching for something else. And so, but I think being content with what you have and what you are and how you're doing is so important to your success, because until you can really look and say and be like, wow, look what I did accomplish, you know, like I did this, this is really cool. And yeah, I want to go here, but that doesn't take away anything from what has happened at this initial place. Yeah. And I mean, I have to be really honest with you. Like, I look at what I do now, you know, like fiscally and revenue wise, and it doesn't even feel a tiny bit as important as what I did in year one when I figured out how to send my very first child to college. I literally barely had 2 dimes to put together. And I worked with the financial aid office and figured out, like, what could I realistically pay to get this kid and pay for her to go to Smith College. She was so excited to go there. It's, you know, a really excellent school. That was like the biggest accomplishment for me. And I mean, what I was able to pay for that kid to go to college was a 10th of what I've been able to pay for all the other kids, you know, schooling and whatever.
But I can imagine people listening, because this was me, like, probably it slowly changed, but not too long ago, this was me, where I'm like, you can't tell me This is what happened in my head. You can't tell me that this is not better than that. But I think some things get easier. What I think I'm coming around to is that sure, money makes things easier. Like that there's some perks that come with the success, the inevitable success that you create for yourself. But my experience, like I'm asking you, your experience in those moments, even though it was hard, it wasn't it wasn't any less. It
Oh,
wasn't it
it
wasn't
was
not
more.
good enough.
It
Yeah,
was profound. I mean,
profound.
and when I look back now on what I was able to accomplish then, I mean, that started so many things. And I mean, I'm so proud of that child's education. And like,
Mhm.
I went to that child's college graduation. And I mean, I've been to a lot of college graduations now. And that child's college graduation meant so much to me because I mean, I figured out how to pay for it. I
Mhm.
supported her, in college. She had an amazing experience at Smith. And then Oprah spoke at the graduation, which I was like, of course, she came because this was so important to me. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, it was
exactly.
like the most powerful thing ever. And I mean, I will always look back at that as being just so profoundly important because it was like that post divorce, like here I am on my own figuring out how to make this work. I mean, it was like badass, whereas
Mhm.
now I could pay what I paid in a year in a week. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yes.
and that makes no difference to me. What I did then matters a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like the focus that we I so you mentioned your word of your year. I have a very good friend who's a high level coach and she's like, "What's your word of the year? I'm like, I haven't found it yet." And so I was talking to her about this concept and she said, "Maybe your word needs to be here, just here." I thought that's interesting. So I let that roll around, but then I go for walks and think. And
But
I was thinking the word just hit me because the word that kept coming to my mind was this. And that probably doesn't resonate or make sense to anybody else. But for me in my head, it's like, this is everything. This right in front of me.
absolutely.
Everything. The hard crap. The all of it. This is the beautiful thing that I'm missing.
And
Yeah.
I have to say, especially for somebody like you, I know I'm going to sound like your mother for a minute, but I mean, having a young child like you do
Mm,
in that just baby stage, I mean, this
mm,
is
mm,
the most amazing time and the amazing things you're able to do and then impart to another human.
mm.
You'll never get that time back. And
Yeah.
it is messy as all get out. It messes with your sleep. It messes with your marriage. It messes with your work. I mean, it
Yeah.
does all the things. But
Yeah.
I mean, it is like meaningful. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. That's a great way to say it. When I say this, it's like there I would not trade this moment, even though there's really hard stuff going on.
Oh,
And even
yeah.
though I am not at my next goal yet. Like, what? Like this, right? It's like, what am I talking about? This is amazing. My life is amazing.
Exactly.
There's someone that said, but it just never landed until like the way it has recently. The key to success is really loving where you are right now and wanting to create more. And
Completely.
it's easy to say that, but to actually feel love for all of your life right now,
Yeah.
not just the pretty stuff,
Right.
all of your life. And I say feel like really not just in your head, like your head detached from your body. In your body, you feel love for everything in front of you right now.
Right.
That is, I think I'm learning to really and do that. And it makes such a difference with content. Like you use
It
the word contentment.
Yeah, I mean, contentment has been really a critical emotion in me. I mean, obviously, as we went through Hurricane Katrina, we evacuated, we,
Yeah.
lost all our stuff, like all the things. I mean, I have come to accept so much just this stuff but really being content in the health of myself, the health of my family, having times with my children that have meant, I mean, the world to me, like,
Mhm.
homeschooling them and evacuating and doing the weird things we did. I mean, I'm definitely kind of a zany mom. Like, I mean, the thing that I brought to my family was my contentment, actually, and
Yeah.
bringing joy to them in situations where it could have looked really ugly. I mean, losing
Mhm.
everything and evacuating could have been kind of bad. And I mean,
Yeah.
the kids look at it they're like, we learned a horse, we got a puppy, we lived in the middle of rural Georgia and,
Yeah.
got to play Robin Hood in the woods. Like, they literally look at it as this big fun time. And,
Yes.
I think that's one of the gifts, though, a parent can give their child is how to be content.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I totally agree with that. Oh, I haven't even thought about how that contributed. I should think that my childhood and how my parents operated. But that is that's how you start to develop your
Right.
worldviews based on the way your parents think. I guess I'm glad that we chatted about this because that day that coach said, do you remember the time that you wanted a loving partner? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, you have that. Do you remember when you wanted a baby? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, you have that. Do you remember when you wanted to make what you're making now working for yourself? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, you have that. You are winning and you're missing it. Cause I'm just like on to the next in my head.
Uh,
And I was like, that I just knew she was right. It pinged me hard enough where I was like, oh, I'm missing it. I am missing it. And so since then, it hasn't been hard to make the shift. It was just, I just needed to wake up and I
yeah.
woke up. And so now it's like,
What a
I'm not,
blessing, though.
huh?
What a blessing
Oh,
for
what a
you.
blessing.
Oh my
She's,
gosh.
oh,
And
I
at
learned
your
from the
young
best, man.
age, I mean, to get that information so young, I mean, I think that is going to
Oh,
be life altering for you and your whole family.
I hope so. But okay, so I say that again I think about you and the goals that you have are not, it's not about the goal. It's about the growth that is required. It's about the development that's required. And you're not in a hurry because there isn't better than here. And I think that you are such living proof that when you're not in a hurry and you're ambitious, like that is what is behind some of the most important success that we see around us. I think there's a way to do it that people get really successful and there is that weird drive where it is better they're chasing something and they're good at chasing and so they create it, but their life sucks. So, and you don't always see that. I think it's just you just strike me as someone who, because of your contentment, I think that's one of the reasons, having talked to so many people who've grown their firms, that's one of the reasons you've grown at the clip you have, is because you weren't so attached to a number. It was just, of course you're going to grow. That's what you do. You're always reaching for the next rung on the ladder, but
Right.
it's not about the next rung. You're fine. If it all went away, you would still love your life. Like that wouldn't, yeah. And you'd create something else.
Well, and that's what I think at the beginning of the pandemic was coming to that really understanding, like, I can list down as tiny as I need. I can scale it up as big as I can in anything in between. I'm still going to be the same person snuggled up, at the time at my outside fireplace,
Yeah.
loving the fact that I was in this nice environment, during this hard time. And I was
Yeah.
going to really enjoy slowing down, not running around meeting to meeting to meeting. And I was going to embrace the pandemic,
Yeah.
and have this time with my son year of high school and really embrace rather than fight it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Elise, you are an inspiration to many, I'm sure, but I'll speak for myself. You are an inspiration to me. I feel really lucky to get to have conversations with you. And yeah, you're truly, I know you enjoy mentorship, but I think you're a mentor to many more people than you realize, myself
Well, I'm
included.
so glad we got to talk. I love that I was there when your little baby got born. Like, so I got to know you before he came. I
Yes.
just that I cannot believe he's gotten as old as
I
he's
know.
gotten. Time just
It does
flies.
fly. I can't believe
It's
it. I was just
wild.
thinking earlier, we were talking a year ago, I was just had a baby. And who would have thought, like, if somebody would have told me last year on the same date, 1 year from now, you'll be interviewing Elise Buie on your podcast. It would have felt so far away. And so it just flew. It flew by.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, I really appreciate your time today.
Tell everybody, like, if they want to learn more about you, and I don't know what your bandwidth is, you probably don't want to just everybody calling you, but if people want to learn more about you and what you're up to, share a little bit about that. Like, what are you excited about right now?
Definitely, it's the Maximum Mom podcast. I mean, I love the podcast so much. And I mean, I talked to somebody yesterday, and so it was, I thought, just the most amazing. She has a book subscription for diverse cultural children. It's children's books. You must find it and you must subscribe. Literally, they have these they start from itty bitty picture books and then they go up to young adults. And it is the most curated, thoughtful, and you visit like one country every month. And the box includes all these different things to bring in the culture of that country. And the book will focus on a diverse child, and the authors will be from that country. And she's supporting the publishing houses from each country. I mean, it is amazing. She is amazing. Oh, it's amazing. But I mean, just getting to learn about that. I literally cannot wait for grandchildren. I'm going to be subscription boxing the universe. I've already ordered some for my team for their children, because it's, I mean, my homeschool mom self, I used to homeschool my kids for a decade. I literally would have loved this. Like, it's the perfect thing.
If people want to look it up, what's it called?
It's called Atlas Book Club.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely look it up. And I can send you the link so that you'll have it. Yeah, because I'm telling you,
that's awesome. I think whoever does the show notes, they'll put it in there. Yeah. That way you don't have to add something to your plate. That's awesome. Yeah. So that's like what you're excited about.
Oh yeah.
Of course you're growing your firm, but that's sort of the second thing that you're focused on.
Well, and I would say, I mean, the real thing I've been focused on now, we bought this new house on the water. It's just lovely. We're having, like I said, my word is renovating. So we are renovating. We are going to enjoy the rest of the pandemic renovating. And then I'm going to open a retreat business for lawyer moms. And we are going to come out here. And I mean, I haven't figured it all out, but I mean, I have all kinds of ideas. I mean, you can only imagine. And it is going to be kind of a spectacular thing for us to do and truly build community among women who are, doing the things we're doing and giving them some space, some time to breathe. And I mean, go hiking in the Olympic National Forest and kayak and, paddleboard and look for whales and, and do some things. Like, I mean, I have all kinds of ideas of bringing in, coaches to help people. Think of the conversation we had today. Imagine meeting in a small group for 3, 4, 5 days and really being able to dig into these
so valuable
and develop connections, deep connections with other people.
Yes.
Because I think valuable. That is something that is so valuable.
Yeah. I almost wonder, I feel like we're going to go that direction after when things start to lift and you can do things again. I'm sure there'll still be the big events, but there's something about being able to get in good conversation in a flow and have the sort of an intimate setting where you feel like you can let your walls down and you can really hash through some stuff. I think the small group thing is the way to go for sure.
And I think building support networks around each other where people, where we have people, because I mean, one thing I have found in my world, having people who are ahead of me helps me see what's possible. Yeah. Having people who are not as like they haven't grown as much or they haven't done as much with their firm helps me because then I can help them.
Yeah.
And then it also helps me clarify what things I still need to work on. When you're teaching somebody else, it really helps you.
Right.
And just being that person where you can talk to. And I mean, people email me all the time. Like I get just the most random emails from people, and just being an authentic voice of somebody who's been through a lot of messy things.
Yeah.
It can just be helpful.
Yes,
You know?
I totally agree. If people want to connect with you on social media, where can they find you?
Probably Facebook would be the best place. I mean,
Yes.
or Instagram,
Okay.
but mostly Facebook, I would say.
I think you're Elise Buie Family Law on Instagram. Is it similar on Facebook?
It is.
We'll
Yeah.
put the links, but for everybody just listening. Okay. That's great. And look up, everybody, Maximum Mom Podcast. You could if you're not a mom, but moms for sure, you should go listen to that podcast. It's a breath of fresh air. I texted Elise before Christmas and I was like, oh my gosh, I just had a hard day and I listened to this episode and it was exactly what I needed. So I think
I love that.
Feel like it'll be a breath of fresh air for many people. All right. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you. And it was lovely talking to you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Hey there. If you enjoyed this podcast, I highly recommend you come and check out Mastery Group. It is where owner attorneys come together to study this material, apply it, and thus create really big results for their firm and for their life. So come on over, velocitywork.com/join to get more information and get started. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.